We're going to kick off this episode straight into action, checking out the Skylanders selection at CEX, and oh boy do they have quite the selection for once. We have dozens upon dozens of characters, starting with water tiki traps. They have triple of those, but they are the common starter pack pieces, mind you. And speaking of starter packs, there is the Trap Team 3DS starter pack back there, alongside a Tide Pool, a Wallop, Blastertron as one of the rarer senseis, and speaking of, well, not even senseis, but liked rarer characters, there's Nightlight, as well as an entire Trap Team cast before us there at the front. There's Trailblazer, Cobra Kadabra, Batspin, just to name a few, and there's also Hogwild Rhino and Jawbreaker to really round out that Trap Team cast right there, and there's Flarewolf as an additional sensei. So I hope you guys enjoyed getting straight into the action with yesterday's clip, but for now it's the next morning, meaning that it's time for me and Luke to be travelling to Boston, which begs the question, where the heck is Luke? Well, because I decided to take a little bit more of a scenic route, Luke decided to go on ahead and I'll meet him at the train station, but there's a few areas of Lincoln yet to explore, which is why, once again, we're starting straight with the action today on this fine Monday morning. But given that this is the Smolderdash Unofficial Appreciation Month, mind you, I brought Smolderdash along with me. Now, I've brought her light core because the regular is a little bit more fragile and we do not want another torch situation.
Okay, Flynn, now I'm triggered. You know why I'm triggered? Why? My torch broke in my bag whilst we were watching the movie. Now that, my friends, is frustrating.
With that having been said, my Smolderdash after the flashback finally decided to pull into focus, and we have finally reached the end of the road I have been taking, the path less travelled, if you will, the pass. I clearly meant path. Here's my stuttering going off again, but it's hard to walk and speak at the same time, I'm noticing this. And now at the end of said street, this is the view we are graced with. Not really much to write home about, is it? So we're going to continue along Sinsel Bank. It's called that obviously because of the water embankment down there, but that being said, no matter where you are in Lincoln, you can always see that magnificent cathedral kind of overlooking the entire city. And there it is, the piece of art that makes this entire scenic route quite worth it. Okay, so we're about done with Sinsel Bank right here, as you can tell by us getting close in proximity to that grand cathedral, but just because of its size it looks way closer than it actually is. That's still a couple of miles off. And now, that's the street in its entirety. Obviously it's very straight and pretty long. It's effectively parallel to the main street, but given it is quieter and safer, it's the street that I use to cycle from point A to point B on a frequent basis. But now we're going to continue heading this way and head, ironically enough, away from the train station, but it wouldn't be a scenic route if it wasn't longer, completely unnecessary, yet more scenic. So next up we're going to be crossing the street and heading under that bridge right there, where a lot of the main traffic heading through Lincoln speeds right past. As you can tell, we're now here under the bridge we saw earlier, and there really isn't much to talk about. There's a bathroom store by the looks of it, a carpet store, and a tool store. But I suppose this kind of out in the middle of nowhere, yet still the city centre-esque area is a perfect area for such things. Based on these pathways, you can already tell that this is path less travelled, but based on typical timing, the barriers have decided to come down right as I approach them, so we're going to have to wait for these to lift before we can continue on our merry way. Even while stopping and waiting for this train, the cathedral is still peeping out to say hello. Okay, so here comes the train. It's not particularly quick and it's very long, but what do you expect from none other than a rail freight train over here? It's obviously carrying things from point A to point B, and it's going to be very well armoured and protected. There is literally nothing stopping that momentum. Given how much weight it has, it doesn't matter how slow it's going to do damage to anything it hits. So it's a damn good thing these barriers are up to protect the public, I suppose. But this train is long, and yet compared to other rail freights I've seen, this is certainly one of the shorter ones, because now that this is out of the way, we can see out into the open track and notice that there is literally nothing coming, yet the barriers still remain closed. I wound up being trapped at those there barriers longer than I would have liked, but the important thing is that we are now on our way once again. At first it seems like nothing more than a pole, and that's because that's exactly what it is, but as we pull our focus you'll see that we have a road to get crossing, so let's get to it. And after crossing the road, it's led us here, where we're going to continue on this route until we hit the water side, so I'll see you there. But first things first, I got to head through this car park, and this is one of the few places in Lincoln where you can't actually see the Grand Cathedral because it's blocked by the sight of these trees being too close in proximity and too tall as well. Now all that's left is to head under yet another bridge to get towards the waterside. So here we are going alongside the waterside. It's effectively just an industrial area on the side of, well, water. Hence where it gets its name from, the waterside. Yet another bridge. Can't seem to get enough of those this video. But anyway, as you can tell, the water does in fact continue. In fact, it continues straight all the way up until it meets the Brayford in the centre of the city, where obviously the University of Lincoln can be found. Now we're not going to be going all the way up there. In fact, we're not even going to be checking out the shopping centre alongside the waterside. We're going to have this photo up instead to marvel at its glory, I suppose you go as far to saying. But what we're going to do here is that when we get to the end of the waterside, well, I'll show you. We're going to be crossing over this road, but we're going to be doing so the safest way possible, which involves this bridge right above me. At the very least, walking atop this bridge here provides us with a glorious view. I love the flowers they've added to the gates in the middle of the road there. It really spices things up and makes it look quite nice indeed. There goes a motorbike, it would seem. I don't have a motorbike myself, I have a push bike, so I often cycle down here whenever for industrial people are on lunch break, so I deliver their food via Uber. But now it's time to head down the slope on the bridge here and head towards this street down here, where obviously there's plenty of trees blocking something that's going to look magnificent. It was pretty refreshing to be heading over a bridge for once rather than heading under it. When I said that we were waiting for something magnificent, this here pole is clearly what I meant. Just kidding, I actually meant the statue back there in the background, as well as all of the greenery and the construction work apparently. But regardless, we are going to be heading in this general direction. I suppose the rule of thumb here is just follow that guy with the epic game bag. Okay, so we've just came down that street right there, and now we're going to continue heading straight past the Everyman right there, a very fancy cinema with nice seats, even better food, and there's a place where my graduation short film Beyond Science got to be screened, so that was a really neat experience. Enough of the Everyman though. Ooh, check out these floor patterns. They lead straight to the Lincoln Central bus station, but we're not interested in that. We're interested in what lies over there, which is the train station. We finally made it after one hell of a scenic route. I can't lie, these statues are pretty cool, but enough dwindling about. Let's go and meet Luke in the corner over there, and by meet I mean jump scare. Obviously there's no better way to greet someone. Boom shakalaka!
Oh, hi, hello.
I mean, I could say Ooga Booga, but that's the wrong kind of tiki.
That is, yeah.
Well, as you can tell, we now met up with Luke
Hi.
right outside none other than a fine train station.
Yes.
You ready to head out to Boston?
Yes.
We are going to be on one of those platforms. You think it would be ideal to check, but apparently not.
Yeah, we haven't even done that.
Well, much like Skylanders itself, the first thing I do is throw all sort of logic and realism out the window.
Now, do you think we'll find a robo in Boston?
Well, it would be too expensive even if we did, but it would be a cool find.
True.
As we make our way to the platform, we get to observe this mighty pole, which has seen better days, as you can tell from a little bit of rust on it right there, but there is a grand view up here, and just like that, we've pulled our focus towards it. Okay, that's quite the pose to start off this clip with. I almost said conclude then, it concluded before it even begun apparently.
It's done, goodbye.
It's like those really fast-paced movies that end sooner than they begin.
Yeah.
With that being said, I hope you enjoyed that fancy schmancy pull focus, and there was also the board to enjoy. It was a fancy board, it didn't even look at me funny, which is why I know that it didn't deserve that damage that was inflicted upon it.
Exactly, that was just scandalous.
I want to find the person who did that and hunt them down. I want to add them to my list of enemies, like those people who disagree with Clementine at the beginning of Telltale's Walking Dead New Frontier.
Clementine?
Just saying those people deserve to be hunted down.
Who is Clementine?
Okay, now Luke has officially been added to that list. Alright, it's time for a speeding train. Okay, I'm making this clip right now because it is very important. Not only did I just absolutely annihilate this man with Lucina, thank you for nothing, you useless hand, but on top of that, this man has the same colour Joy-Cons as me. He is such a copycat.
Even though you copied me.
Yeah, I was about to say, despite the fact that I got the Joy-Cons after he did. But man, that's a lot of greenery right there. As you can tell, we are indeed passing by a speeding train.
Well, we are in our transfer stop, Sleaford. Actually, kind of a cool look down that way. It's just, you know, trees and stuff, but it's the iconic England greenery and Ignite the Fire's head, apparently. Yes, exactly. We have a nice old, well, not old, but a more modern style timber frame building over there.
Okay, so I've totally just shamelessly stole a bunch of Luke's clips. Deal with it in words of mighty tough work.
I'm going to copyright you.
Yeah, sure is. These tracks have seen better days when it comes to rubbish being scattered everywhere, but I'm pointing out these stairs here because I'm not the only one shamelessly doing things. Luke has been shamelessly not doing something, which is stairs. He's been avoiding the stairs. Okay, so as you can see, and no doubt here, because it's not exactly subtle, it has begun to rain. Our typical look, we go out for a nice little day trip and the weather can't seem to do us a favour. That's the UK for you. Wait a minute, this isn't Sleaford.
No, we've magically teleported.
Yeah, I'm only just noticing that this isn't Sleaford. A little bit of jet lag, even though no jets were involved.
Exactly.
But it looks like Luke's attempt to avoid stairs has come to an end.
No!
Well, too bad. You're going to have to, in words of mighty tough work, deal with it. And as you can tell, the weather has also changed significantly, because that, my friends, once again, is just what the UK is like. At the very least, after some stairs, we do have a very nice view of Boston, the station, and obviously, as you saw beforehand, all of its surroundings, though the Astor feels very corporate right now. Luckily, I'm competent enough to not have accidentally gotten off at the wrong station. So as you can tell, we're now under the sign instead, and this is our first look of Boston. What are we thinking so far of all these 360 degrees?
Houses.
Already, it's reminding me of literally every other place in the UK.
Well, most places in the UK do look kind of similar.
Well, you know what? I have no problems with that whatsoever. Well, the front of the train station is at least a little bit nicer. That looks pretty cool, especially with the flowers surrounding it to spice it up with a little colour. Okay, so we're heading down Station Street. Surprising it's called Station Street, given that the station is right nearby. But we can see the spire in the background once again. That is not subtle and very difficult to miss. Okay, Luke is now wandering off. He's about to go straight, despite my instructions earlier being explicit about us going left at Tower Street. But regardless, there is a police station over there. So now we can finally turn in Luke for his crimes. Also, this camera angle is a crime, given how zoomed in it is right now. But you want to know what Luke's crime was?
What?
He told me that it's a crime to like Skylanders too much. There's no such thing as liking Skylanders too much.
Well, I had the crime of liking Iron Brew too much.
That is a very serious matter.
That is actually true as well.
With that being said, we're going to leave the police station behind and actually turn left at Tower Street. You remind me of the one time I gave someone instructions to a place, and the first thing I did was tell him to go left. And he went right.
Yeah. Well, right is always right.
This is the ultimate facepalm moment. That's not what facepalm looks like. The road leading up to the police station is even called Lincoln Lane, but we just came from there. That being Lincoln, not Lane. We didn't come from Lane.
No.
I'll be really embarrassed if the place we studied at the university was called Lane.
Yeah, it was called Lane Lincoln instead.
Okay, here we are, staring down the spire head on, and it is magnificent, to put it mildly. Okay, we know we're near the coast because you can hear seagulls. That's exactly what that man behind me there just said.
Yes. Like that.
Perfect timing!
Okay, so here we have the embankment. It's literally known as Haven Bank. You can't really see the street sign from back there, but trust me, that is what it reads, because I'm capable of said reading. And as we pan around, there is obviously the bridge over there, which we're going to be crossing in a minute, so I wonder what kind of awesome shots we can get from there. And then there's the Union Jack. That's always a welcome sight. This fella over here, though, not so much. This is 1K away from being a beloved Smash Bros character. Okay, so this right now is my eye level, and I'm 6'4", so you can tell by that scale just how tall this spire truly is. Oh my gosh, what are you looking at, Luke? What are you looking at? It's one of my favourite things.
A curb.
Well, I wasn't about the curb, I was about the floor patterns, but you know, curbs also work. I think only I could get that excited over the floor patterns, but with that being said, it's really warmed up now, so I'm going to be taking this off for the next shot.
That would be wise.
Of course it would be wise, why else would you think I'd be doing it? If there's one thing I love more than floor patterns, it is fish decorating this wall right here. That is some beauty. You combine that with the greenery and you can't really go much wrong with any of it. See this bridge right here? It's a bit like something. It's a bit like a bridge, really. Time for one final wide angle before we enter onto the bridge right here. And Luke just pulled off a bit of an oopsie, so we're definitely going to take the piss out of him for it. What were you just doing there, Luke?
So I was trying to get a decent frame to capture the magnificence of this spire. And I'm like, okay, wide angle. Oh wait, I don't have enough framing. Let's just lean back like this to get to the shot. Like,
he forgets that you could just, you know, stand back.
Yeah. Oops.
I've gone through some great lengths to get this shot because I am kneeling down and it is painful, but it is worth it as we pull our focus to that magnificent artwork right there. We have obviously for Mermaid and for Heart with Boston. It's just cel shaded and it looks truly fantastic. So there's the canal that the bridge runs over, and obviously we didn't see it before because of the 6-foot high embankment. So no matter how high this river is getting from all of the rain, I don't think it's quite going to seep over those edges anytime soon. So luckily for mermaids, and in this case the octopus, they seem like they're going to be just fine. Look at that, the spire just peeking out behind the tree. Okay, so it's time for us to leave the magnificent bridge behind, and Luke had the audacity to compare my beauty to the might of that magnificent octopus earlier.
Yes.
What was it you said exactly?
It's more prettier than you.
I totally agree 100%. In fact, to even be considered amongst the same sentence as that octopus, massive honour is mine.
Exactly.
We did check out this cash generator store briefly, and whilst they do have gadgets and stuff like a £180 PlayStation 4, which is not worth it, but unfortunately they didn't have any Skylanders. The closest they had was the Spyro Reignited Trilogy. I know exactly why we didn't find any Skylanders in that store.
Why?
It's all because of Reignited Trilogy. Hashtag blame Reignited Trilogy.
Exactly.
But yeah, we're bringing that inside joke back. Those of you who remember that from live streams 3 or 4 years ago, I tip my hat off to each and every one of you. Okay, get that hashtag always blame Reignited Trilogy off the screen, because what we haven't said is the beauty of the town centre is about time we moved on from that ridiculous hashtag, because there are things on the new horizon. Puns for the win.
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Horizon Zero Dawn is a fantastic game, and so is this town centre. It's not a fantastic game, but it's fantastic all the same, so it has fantasticness in common. We only got to see this briefly in the pan beforehand, so now we get to observe it in its magnificent glory up close and personal from its head-on, mind you. And man, having that right before the massive spire in the background, it just gives such a sense of power. I do find it funny how the Saver meals are basically what the Big Mac meals used to cost. I mean, I don't really love the fact that I'm spending more these days, you know, things becoming more costly, but I felt like the sarcasm was on the nose enough.
Yes.
That is a nose and it was on it.
Exactly.
My sarcasm right there, that was on his thumb, that was
Yes.
on his nose, on the nose. On the nose a bit much.
Yes.
How many more times can I say on the nose this clip? Too many more times, that's the answer. It was a rhetorical question. Okay, we're slowly but surely making our way towards the CX, having all this beauty to guide us along the way, I suppose you could go as far to saying. Yeah, I keep making little snippets and clips because if I have too much of that song in the background, because the singing is so good, I might just get copyrighted for it. Once again, this is my sarcasm. That's Luke's nose. But on the bright side, we have at least reached the glory that is CEX. Let's go on inside and see if they have any Skylanders on display without further ado. Looks like that there tub of Skylanders is the closest we're going to get to a Skylanders display in this here CEX. Okay, so given the very small size of that store, it doesn't surprise me that none of the Skylanders were on display. Man, my stuttering is through the roof today.
Exactly.
I mean, this guy, he can speak to that.
Yes.
His stuttering is the worst.
I stutter all the time. Like,
Case in point.
there.
Looks like our next stop is one of the Boston parks. You know what, Luke? Despite this being a Smolderdash appreciation video, I've referenced Smolderdash very little thus far. This is not what I'd call a blaze of glory for such a magnificent character.
Definitely not smouldering it enough.
You see, that's even better than mine. All I did was say a catchphrase, and he at least had, you know, some sort of creativity scattered in there.
We should dash on.
Now that is a little less forgivable.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
So all of the noises of the birds in here, one of them flew over to say hello to the camera, but having a bird cage like this reminds me of Queen's Park back in Loughborough, and the colours of these birds specifically remind me of High Five, given for red, green and yellow colour palettes. That is if and when my camera wants to focus, mind you, in accordance with my camera's autofocus systems. The cage is more interesting than the birds, which could not be further than the truth. I mean, look at those things, they are magnificent. Okay, the birds even have their own source of water back here, which isn't for most pinnacle of focus shots, but one bird is going to fly through the shot regardless. I just can't help it, the cage is that interesting to my camera that it just can't seem to divert its focus away from it. And here we are finally up the other end of the cage, getting to see the birds and the rest of their magnificent glory. So the rest of this park pretty much has green, green and more green to speak of, except for the actual park part of the park, because it wouldn't really be a park without a park now, would it? Never mind, I suppose a park does have a little bit more to it than just green, green and more green, though these by all definitions are still green. But they look magnificent all the same, and that's what matters. Looks like I'm in yet another residential area, and it is confirmed that magnificent is our word of the day. But the question here is, does Smolderdash approve? Really? The silent treatment? Well, I suppose we'll take the silence as a yes.
Very cool looking building. I assume it must have been part of a bank at one point. Imagine still being in the town centre and you see this sad looking site.
It's about as barren as we get at the outskirts of the town centre.
I mean, come on, you're in a town centre. Why is this not used more for, well, town centre things? That makes sense.
Okay, that last clip isn't exactly what I would call a dig on Boston because, well, first of all, they're literally digging this stuff up because they're doing maintenance work, proving that Boston really does take pride in its appearance. And speaking of puns, this here Violet Rose, which, well, it's actually Violet Rose, but Luke read it as Violet Rooms. Rooms which are obviously violent because violet and violent are very similar words, so that right there is the entirety of the joke. That's it, we're done here.
Yes.
You can now tell how close to the coast we've gotten, given how many seagulls are around trying to scavenge what remains of that meal over there. But regardless, after having come left, we've met for canal once more, and we have this for Custom House Quay. Very interesting pronunciation that, but going so far left, we've managed to surpass that bridge we saw from the other bridge. That's double bridges, and I have no problem with all this bridgeception right now. There's also the spire in the background, which, as per the norm, is very difficult to miss. Wow, this whole area, just like the rest of Boston, seems pretty beautiful to me. But what we're going to do here is double back towards the town centre that way and see what we can find to drink. So here we are back at the town centre from the left-hand side this time. And no matter where I go, I cannot seem to escape the elusive KFC. Okay, so we have made it back into the town centre where we took a couple of drinks here for Stump and Candle.
Yes, it was.
Given that Stump is the first name of a Skylander called Stump Smash.
Yes, and it was actually a reasonably priced place, so definitely recommend it.
Supposedly, Luke left his soul behind as a tip.
Yes, my soul wants to guzzle vodka, so I left him behind.
Well, that was your response when I asked you, making sure we had everything, because if my head wasn't screwed on correctly, I probably would leave it behind.
Yes.
But that being said, after a couple of drinks, it would turn out that Smolderdash here is a bit of an alcoholic.
Yes, definitely Smolderdash. I mean, just look at those flames, it's a clear indicator.
But that being said, now that we're back in the town centre and we've doubled back, I think it's time to go back to CX and see if they'll let me have a quick rummage through that tub of Skylanders.
Yes, and let's hope there's something worth buying.
And also it means we get to get out of this rain right now, which is literally only just started the moment we left the pub.
Thank you, Fate.
Typical look, that.
I know, right?
Luckily, the staff were kind enough to let me have a search through this tub of Skylanders, and we kick things off with yet another food fight. Apparently, we haven't seen enough of him this video already. Now, that's a Starlink piece, so we're going to get that out of here right away. There's a Tramp Shadow. Interesting to see such a rare swapper, but Ninjini, on the other hand, she's far more common, and she's going to be our first of several giants here, because in case you couldn't tell, I'm post-commentating this. And here we are with Crusher as well, looking magnificent for the sake of a giant representation, and a single Ghost Roaster. You don't frequently see those, but so far, I'm loving what I'm seeing in terms of the preservation of these figures. We have a Wildfire right here, who's looking glorious as always. We're going to get that huge chunk of Disney Infinity crap out of here, and speaking of crap, this Wallop has seen better days. I mean, he has half of one hammer and the other hammer is completely missing altogether. But now we move on to an enchanted Hoot Loop of all things. Very interesting, and again, it's good to see that's all bubble wrapped up. There is an Egg Bomber Airstrike as well as a Dive Bomber, so that's two interesting figurines right there. It's always great to see Senseis. And here's a food fight wrapped up in bubble wrap this time around. There's an Air Jughead. You can barely tell the trap inside of the bubble wrap, but luckily that's what we have the labels for. Digging deeper into the pack, I found yet another Sensei, the Jingle Bells Chompy Mage figurine. So that's pretty cool. It would have been even cooler if we had the rarer green one, mind you. But there's the Barrel Blaster, missing its lever, so the toy is technically broken. And then there's the Swarm as well, my favourite giant wrapped in bubble wrap. There's the Starlink figure again. And we've came across the Air Jughead once again. As I rummage through, I apparently am sifting through the same figurines over and over again. So checking out the back here, there's not only the Sea Shadow, but also a Nightfall. So that Supercharger combination is intact. As we pull our focus back to the tub of Skylanders, we find a Mirror of Mystery. There's a Serious Trick Happy back there, as well as a loose Elite Boomer. And there's even, looking back there, I found a fragile Splat as well as a Series 2 Slam Man. It sure is a good thing that Giants figures are quite sturdy. That is a Hulk, unfortunately, so not quite a Skylander. There's Wildfire on the top once again, and here's a Free Ranger Swap Force figurine, always looking fantastic. In fact, speaking of Swap Force, there's a Mega Ram Spyro as well as a Boomjet. This tub is just filled to the brim with Trap Team and Swap Force goodies. But that pretty much does it for this tub. I'm just sifting through the same things over and over again here. There's a Starlink again, but luckily I did find an eyeball buried right there at the very bottom. So that, my friends, is what that massive tub of Skylanders had to offer. Okay, so after extensively shooting on my phone, I wound up running out of battery just as me and Luke went into the Stump and Candle, but luckily Luke let us film utilising his phone on behalf of this here video, so I really appreciate that. But regardless, we did check out CX, and after a minute of rummaging through their Skylanders, I didn't leave there empty-handed because there was a particularly rare swapper found amongst the cast within that tub, that being Trap Shadow. So I bought this figurine in order to give it away, as I understand that a lot of people are missing this figurine. So if you want your chance to win this here prestigious Trap Shadow, who has been kept in magnificent condition by the way, thanks to the plastic that they've stapled him into, as you can tell from the staples down there. So all you need to do to enter this giveaway is subscribe to the channel, as well as leave me a comment in the comment section below asking to be entered into such giveaway. Unfortunately, I am limiting this giveaway to UK residents only because shipping outside of the UK is ridiculously expensive these days. So naturally, for a Trap Shadow alone, shipping outside of the UK wouldn't really be worth it. So if you don't live in the UK and you win the contest, I'm sorry, but I won't be shipping this to you. But everyone within the UK, you don't need to worry about any sort of shipping fees because that will be covered by yours truly as part of the giveaway prize. So best of luck to all of you out there. And this is pretty much where the video is going to come to an end. It's a shorter vlogging video than most, but Boston, whilst looking nice, it didn't have all too much to do within its town centre, so we wound up leaving there a little earlier than expected, but we got home in the end, and that's what matters. Smolderdash approves of this here video, but now that seal of approval having been applied, it's time to roll that outro without further ado. I cannot, in good conscience, end off this video without first thanking all of my incredible channel members whose continued support help make these videos possible. Without them, these videos would be near impossible to make, so from the bottom of my heart, I truly appreciate every last one of them. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, there are plenty of options on screen now to explore, and please consider subscribing to keep up to date with all my content. On that note, this video is coming to an end, so thank you so much as always for watching. Until the next video arises, peace!